Hello, welcome back. It's really great to see you again. Thank you so much. I am Lucy. I'm 42 years old and I'm originally from the UK, but I live here in the beautiful Medellin. And I have been living with a whole host of perimenopause symptoms over the course of the last 8 years. And this is my channel really dedicated to helping other women like you navigate these symptoms, navigate all of the information out there. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, I'm just a woman that has been doing all of the things, seeing what works, learning, educating myself over the course of the last 8 years. In this video, I want to talk about a question that I had and I have been on a mission to understand, which is, as a perimenopausal woman, should I be fasting or should I not be fasting? Now, there is an absolute wealth of information out there, and I'm going to reference 2 podcasts that I watched and a third where the 2 opposing / complementary viewpoints came together. The first podcast that I watched was Dr Stacy on Huberman Labs with Andrew Huberman, who is an absolute god. I am in love with him. But yeah, so basically Andrew interviewed Stacy. I'd not heard of Stacy before, but she is an exercise physiologist, a researcher at Stanford, and has really dedicated her life to helping women understand how to train and how to get the most out of their training, because most of the research out there exists on men. And she believes that women are not small men, and I absolutely 100% believe the same. I learned some really, really interesting things on that podcast, which then I started to question when I saw another podcast with Dr Mindy on the Know Thyself podcast with Andre Dukum, who I also absolutely adore. When I watched that podcast, she really piqued my interest around fasting, because she talked about autophagy, which is the process of cells that are kind of going wrong or mutating or are dead, cells that are essentially associated with aging. Autophagy is the process of clearing them from the body. She also talked a lot about stem cell renewal, which I am into longevity in a big way. In fact, that's kind of why I do all of this in the first place. She was talking about how if you fast for prolonged periods of time, in this case it was 3 days, you can also generate new stem cells, which I was very, very personally interested in. It was also at a time, it was the end of the year, I was not feeling that great, and I was looking for something that was going to give me a real hard reset. And she talked a lot about the autophagy, the stem cell renewal, kind of this deep spiritual connection by not eating for 3 days and just drinking water. I did do that. I can say that honestly, I didn't have any massive, overwhelming feelings during the 3 days. It was difficult, not the hardest thing that I've ever done, but when I finally ate food again, that for me was when all of the revelations and the insights came to me and my relationship with food. The 3-day fast was a very interesting experiment for me. After I had then done that 3-day experiment and I started to really think about, well, I've seen this from Stacy, I've seen this from Mindy, what is really good for me? I actually came across the podcast of the 2 of them, not going head to head, but discussing their different viewpoints. Without you having to watch all 3 of those podcasts, I am going to summarize what I learned and my perspectives. Context is everything, which is a very important life rule and something that I really consider. Now, the difference here is whether you're an active or a non-active woman. And that's really, really going to define the answer as to whether fasting is good for you or not. Now, I am an active woman, and I learn a lot from Stacy. And when they talk about it in the podcast, Mindy very much takes on board the comments from Stacy, which is essentially, if you're an active woman, the exercise that you are doing is just as good, if not better, for autophagy and for making sure that the body is in a really good, healthy state than fasting. If you're a non-active woman and you aren't doing any exercise, fasting can be a bit of a short-term hack for improving blood glucose sensitivity, insulin sensitivity, and all of that kind of jazz. Now, I'm not going to get into the science. I am not a doctor. But basically, the TLDR is that actually, if you're a non-active woman, fasting can be helpful to improve some of the metabolism and weight issues that you might be having. But if you're active, actually the active exercising is just as, if not more, important and effective for you. That is the first thing. It makes a big difference whether you're active or non-active. And I would definitely say for any woman out there, like me, I used to sit on the sofa the weekends. I didn't care. I didn't do anything until I was probably in my very, very late 30s. By that point, it already wasn't enough. And I really, really had to ramp things up when I hit 35, when I started having these symptoms. And I can tell you that being active is 100% going to make a difference to your life. And we can talk about tips and tricks and how to get consistently looking after your body and getting out there and just getting some movement, because it will make all the difference, much more so than fasting. The other point they do kind of agree on is really around, if you are fasting, what should that eating window look like? Now, something that I learned from Dr. Stacy, which was an absolute game changer for me, was that it's really important that as a woman in your perimenopause era, you should be eating within 30 minutes of waking up. If you're fasting until like midday, that's not really great for you, and especially not great for you if you're training. And she really, really cautions against training on an empty stomach. And she really talks about the benefit of just having even a scoop of protein in your coffee when you wake up before you train, just to help the body know that there is fuel coming, and to deal with the cortisol spikes that we get when we wake up first thing. That was a big revelation for me. And actually, I was one of those people that I woke up and I would basically drink 1.5 liters of coffee. And then probably like 2 hours after getting up, I would eat my breakfast. And I didn't feel good. I can tell you, I quite often felt jittery. I felt kind of like disconnected. It wasn't great. And the other thing that I noticed was that my hair was really, really shedding. And I think that was just because my body was so stressed. I actually shifted my routine probably at the beginning of this year. And I started actually eating within half an hour of waking up. And then maybe 1.5 hours after waking, I would have my coffee. And I can tell you, it has made a world of difference to how I feel. And my hair has stopped shedding as well. That is amazing. Really think about that eating window. Try and eat within half an hour of waking up. And then if you do want to fast, try and consider having your last meal before it gets dark. Now, depending on where you live, that may or may not be possible. But for me, I try and aim to eat at the latest by 7 p.m. And that still gives me a really, really decent window before I go to sleep, in order to allow for some of those benefits of the body to do all of the processing that it needs. And I've noticed a really big difference in my sleep from when I eat just before I go to bed, or if I eat and then have a decent window before I go to sleep. My sleep is always way much better. And if sleep is good, everything is good. And we'll talk another time about the foundational elements of sleep. Eating early when you wake up. If you're going to fast, try and eat before it gets dark. Just very practical tips there. And then something that's also really important for you to consider is to know your own goal. We all have different goals. And if you're an active woman and you're wanting to continue to improve how you feel, and you really want to take care of yourself during perimenopause, then think about the things that you can change in your lifestyle in order to do that. So, for example, eating within 30 minutes. If you don't want to eat a full meal, having a coffee, never training, fasted. It's really important just to think about what is your overall goal. And if it's weight loss and you're not active and you want to find a different approach, then I would definitely say I would listen to Dr. Mindy, because she's going to be much more aligned to you, helping achieve your short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. So important to know those. And then just like a final note really, again, is just by being aware of where you're at in your cycle. Women are not small men by any means, and we also have our periods. That really, really changes everything about what's going on inside our bodies. Starting to shift and change your routines, including like how you train, depending on where you're at in your cycle, is also something that they both agree on. I hope that was helpful. It's my little summary of whether you should be fasting or not as a perimenopausal woman. And as I said, really context is everything. If you're active, it's a different approach. If you're non-active, if you're going to fast, making sure that you eat 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after waking up, and extending your fasting window in the evening, and then being clear on your goals and making sure that you're aware of where you're at in your cycle. Hopefully that was helpful. If you've learned something, please like the video. It really helps me to understand whether I'm appealing to you guys or not. And if you dislike it, obviously you can give me the thumbs down. If you want to stay in touch, please do subscribe. It really means the world to me. And thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your time. And please let me know what you think in the comments. Or if you have any other tips to share with women like us, please do so. Really trying to build a community here of women, supporting women in the perimenopause space. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.